The moment Attorney Caldwell finished reading my father's will, my body started glowing with a soft golden light. My grown children, Terrence, Desiree, and Antoine, scrambled backward from the conference table so fast that Terrence knocked over his coffee, the dark liquid spreading across the mahogany surface like the fear spreading across their faces. "What the hell is happening to you, Mama?" Desiree shrieked, pressing herself against the wall of the law office. I stared at my hands, watching the light pulse beneath my brown skin like fireflies trapped under glass. 73 years on this earth, and I'd never felt anything like this. A warmth that started in my chest and radiated outward, making me feel more alive than I had in decades. "The Hawthorne legacy," Attorney Caldwell said calmly, as if elderly black women glowed every day in his office. "Your father's letter explains everything, Mrs. Grayson." But before he could hand me the envelope marked for Ruby's eyes only, Antoine lunged forward. "Whatever trick this is, whatever scam you and Granddaddy cooked up, we're not falling for it." The golden light flared brighter, and suddenly I understood. This wasn't just about money or property. This was about something much older, much deeper than any of us had imagined. Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back to where this all started. 3 weeks ago, when my father, Cornelius Hawthorne, passed away at 94 years old. Daddy had been living with me for the last 5 years, ever since Mama died. My husband Earl had passed 8 years ago, leaving me alone in our 4-bedroom house in Oak Grove, the historically black neighborhood where our family had lived for generations. When Daddy moved in, I thought it would give me purpose again, someone to care for, someone who needed me. My children had different ideas. "Why should you have to take care of him?" Terrence had argued when I first brought Daddy home from the hospital. "He's got money. Put him in one of those nice assisted living places." Terrence, my oldest at 51, had always been about the bottom line. He worked as a financial advisor downtown, drove a Tesla, and lived in a gated community 30 minutes away. His wife Natasha was even worse. She'd look at Daddy like he was something stuck to her designer shoe. Desiree, 49, wasn't much better. She ran a successful hair salon, Desiree's crown and glory, but success had changed her. "Mama, you're too old to be playing nurse," she'd say, even though I was healthier than some folks half my age. "And what about when he gets worse? You can't lift him by yourself." Only Antoine, my baby at 45, had shown any initial support, but that changed when his wife Keisha got in his ear. "Your mama's sitting on a gold mine with that house," I'd overheard Keisha saying once. "And now your granddaddy's there too? They're hoarding family wealth while we're out here struggling." Struggling. Antoine owned 3 car dealerships, but I kept Daddy with me anyway. Every morning I'd make his favorite breakfast: scrambled eggs with cheese, turkey bacon, and wheat toast with apple butter from the farmer's market. We'd sit on the front porch, watching the neighborhood wake up, him telling stories about the old days when Oak Grove was the heartbeat of black excellence in our city. "Ruby girl," he'd say, his voice still strong despite his age, "you got something special in you. Something that's been sleeping but ain't dead." I thought he meant my spirit, my resilience. I didn't know he meant it literally. The last 3 years got harder. Daddy's mind stayed sharp, but his body betrayed him. I converted the downstairs den into his bedroom, installed grab bars in the bathroom, bought a walker, then a wheelchair. Through it all, my children's visits became less frequent, their complaints more persistent. "You're killing yourself for him," Desiree said during one of her rare Sunday dinners at my house. "And for what? So he can leave everything to the church?" "That's our inheritance you're protecting," Terrence added, not even trying to hide his greed anymore. "Granddaddy owns 3 properties, has investments. That money should be securing our futures, our children's futures." Their children, my grandbabies, were the only reason I didn't put them out of my house right then. Terrence's daughter Zara, 16 and brilliant, still came by to read to her great-grandfather. Desiree's twin boys, Jordan and Jalen, both in college, would FaceTime him every week, and Antoine's little girl, Imani, only 8, would paint him pictures that we'd tape all over his room. Daddy loved those children fiercely. "They got the spark," he'd tell me. "Skip a generation sometimes, but they got it." 2 weeks before he passed, Daddy called Attorney Caldwell to the house. "My children found out somehow, probably from nosy Nancy next door who couldn't hold water if you paid her, and they all showed up uninvited." "We should be included in any legal discussions," Terrence demanded, barging into Daddy's room without knocking. Daddy, propped up in his hospital bed, looked at them with such disappointment. "Y'all don't care about me. You care about what I'm leaving behind." "That's not true, Granddaddy," Desiree lied, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "We just want to make sure Mama's taken care of." "Ruby don't need taking care of," Daddy said firmly. "Ruby's the one who's been taking care, and she's about to get everything she deserves." Antoine stepped forward, his face twisted with anger. "So you're cutting us out? Your own great-grandchildren?" "I ain't said nothin' about cutting nobody out," Daddy replied. "But what you get and what you want might be 2 different things." They left in a huff, but not before Terrence cornered me in the kitchen. "Whatever he's planning, Mama, we can contest it. No judge is going to let him leave everything to you when you're already 73 years old. That's elder abuse, taking advantage of a confused old man." "Your grandfather's mind is perfectly clear," I said, my hands shaking with anger. "Clearer than yours, apparently, if you think I'd steal from my own father." "Then why the secret meetings with lawyers?" Desiree jumped in. "Why keep us in the dark?" "Maybe because you just called him a confused old man?" I shot back. "Maybe because you haven't visited in 2 months except to ask about his will?" They left that day, and I didn't see them again until the funeral. Daddy passed peacefully on a Thursday morning, holding my hand, smiling as if he could see something beautiful waiting for him. His last words to me were, "Remember, Ruby girl, when the time comes, don't be afraid of the light." The funeral at Mount Olive Baptist Church was beautiful. Pastor Williams spoke about Daddy's legacy of service, how he'd been one of the first Black engineers at the power company, how he'd mentored dozens of young people, how he'd quietly paid for numerous college scholarships. The church was packed. Folks from all over came to pay their respects. My children put on a good show, crying at all the right moments, hugging me for the cameras. But I heard them whispering during the repast, calculating property values, arguing about who deserved what. It made me sick. Sister Dolores, my best friend since high school, sat with me that evening after everyone left. "They showing their true colors, ain't they?" she said, patting my hand. "Earl would be so disappointed," I said, tears finally coming. "We raised them better than this." "Sometimes, Ruby, children got to learn the hard way that everything that glitters ain't gold, and everything valuable ain't money." Which brings us to today. Sitting in Attorney Caldwell's office on Broad Street, the will reading that was supposed to be simple now turned into something impossible. The golden light around me pulsed stronger as Attorney Caldwell handed me my father's letter. My children stayed pressed against the walls, except for Antoine, who had his phone out, recording. "Put that away," Attorney Caldwell said sharply. "What happens in this room is confidential until Mrs. Grayson decides otherwise." I opened Daddy's letter with trembling, glowing hands. "My dearest Ruby, if you're reading this, then the Hawthorne legacy has awakened in you as it did in me, as it did in my grandmother before me. We are descendants of something ancient, something powerful, something that skips generations but never dies. The golden light you're experiencing is called the truth illumination. It's a gift that reveals the true nature of things and people. It shows what's hidden, heals what's broken, and protects what's precious. But it only awakens in those who have proven themselves through selfless love and sacrifice. Your children have failed the test I set before them, not the test of caring for me, that was your burden to bear with grace, but the test of honoring the one who bore that burden. They've shown greed where there should be gratitude, selfishness where there should be support. The properties, the money, the investments, yes, they exist, but they're nothing compared to what you now possess. The truth. Illumination will show you things as they really are. It will give you the power to protect the innocent, expose the deceitful, and restore justice where it's been denied. But beware, my daughter. Those who live in darkness will fear your light. All my love, Daddy. I looked up from the letter to find my children staring at me with a mixture of fear and greed. The golden light had settled into a soft aura around me, and I could see something I'd never seen before. Dark tendrils of shadow writhing around each of them like smoke. "What does it mean?" Desiree demanded. "What's this truth illumination? Is this some kind of cult thing?" "It means," Attorney Caldwell said, pulling out a thick folder, "that your mother has inherited something far more valuable than money. And according to your grandfather's will, each of you will receive exactly what you deserve. Nothing more, nothing less." "We want to see the will!" Terrence shouted. "Now!" Attorney Caldwell looked at me, and I nodded. As he began to read, the shadows around my children grew darker, more agitated. And I finally understood what Daddy meant. The test wasn't over. It was just beginning. The will started simply enough. I, Cornelius Hawthorne, being of sound mind and body, but as Attorney Caldwell read on, my children's faces grew paler with each word. Because Daddy hadn't just distributed his assets, he'd attached conditions to everything, conditions that would require them to prove themselves worthy. And based on the shadows I could now see writhing around them, they were about to fail spectacularly. The golden light pulsed again, and suddenly I could hear their thoughts as clearly as if they were speaking aloud. The greed, the resentment, the schemes they were already hatching. But more importantly, I could see something else, a darker truth about what they'd been doing behind my back. Something that would change everything. The office door burst open, and in walked someone I never expected to see. The person who burst through Attorney Caldwell's office door was my grandson Jordan, one of Desiree's twins. But he looked nothing like the clean-cut college junior I knew. His usually neat locks were disheveled, his Howard University sweatshirt was torn, and his left eye was swollen shut. "Grandma Ruby!" he gasped, then froze when he saw me glowing. What's happening to you?" "Jordan!" Desiree shrieked, jumping up from her chair. "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be at school." "I came to tell Grandma the truth," Jordan said, his voice shaking but determined. "About what y'all have been doing, about the house, about everything." The shadows around Desiree writhed violently. "Boy, you better shut your mouth right now if you know what's good for you." "Or what, Ma?" Jordan challenged, stepping closer to me. "You gonna have Uncle Antoine's people work me over again, like they did when I tried to warn Grandma last month?" The golden light around me flared so bright that everyone shielded their eyes. When it dimmed, I was standing and I felt stronger than I had in years. "What are you talking about, baby? What people?" Before we continue, quick question. What would you do in this situation? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Jordan looked at his mother, then at his uncles, then back at me. "They've been planning this for over a year, Grandma. Ever since great-granddaddy got real sick. They hired someone to get you declared incompetent so they could take control of your house and his estate." "That's a lie!" Terrence roared, but the shadows around him grew thicker, and through my new gift, I could hear his real thoughts. The little punk ruined everything. We were so close. "It's not a lie," Attorney Caldwell said quietly, pulling out another folder. "Mr. Hawthorne knew about it. That's why he had me hire a private investigator 6 months ago. We have everything. The forged medical documents, the bribed social worker, even the judge they were planning to pay off." My legs felt weak, but the golden light kept me standing. My own children. My babies that I'd nursed through fevers. taught to ride bikes, sent to college. They were trying to destroy me. "Show me," I said, my voice steady despite my breaking heart. Attorney Caldwell spread the documents across his desk. There were emails between Terrence and a Dr. Reginald Cross, a psychiatrist who'd never even met me but had already prepared a diagnosis of dementia. There were bank statements showing Antoine had paid a social worker named Gladys Freeman $5,000 to file false reports about my living conditions. And there were text messages between Desiree and someone named Vernon describing how they'd secretly been giving me supplements to make me seem confused and forgetful. "The vitamins," I whispered, remembering how Desiree had insisted I take those special vitamins she'd bought. "You were drugging me?" Desiree's face crumbled into fake tears. "Mama, it's not what it looks like. We were worried about you." But with the truth illumination, I could see her real thoughts clear as day. Just a few more months and we would have had everything. The house alone is worth $800,000 in this market. "Jordan," I said, turning to my grandson, "how did you find out?" "I overheard Ma on the phone with Uncle Terrence," he said, wincing as he touched his swollen eye. "They were laughing about how you'd never see it coming, how you trusted them too much to ever suspect. I tried to call you, but Uncle Antoine intercepted me on campus. Said if I opened my mouth they'd make sure I never graduated, never got a job anywhere." "But you came anyway," I said, my heart swelling with pride even as it broke for what he'd endured. "You raised me, Grandma," Jordan said simply. "When Ma was too busy building her business to come to my games, you were there. When I needed help with homework, you were there. When Great-Granddaddy told his stories, you made sure I listened. I couldn't let them do this to you." The golden light extended from me to touch Jordan, and his eye began to heal right before our eyes. The swelling went down, the bruising faded, and he gasped as the pain disappeared. "What is this?" he asked in wonder. "Your great-grandfather's true inheritance," I said. Then I turned to my children, who were backing toward the door. "Sit. Down." The authority in my voice stopped them cold. They sat. "Mr. Caldwell," I said, "please continue reading the will." He cleared his throat and continued. "To my grandson, Terrence Grayson, I leave the sum of $1 and this message. Your greed has blinded you to real wealth. Until you can prove 12 consecutive months of genuine service to others without expectation of reward, you will receive nothing more." Terrence shot to his feet. "That's illegal! I'll contest this." "Try it," Attorney Caldwell said calmly. "Your grandfather included video testimony, authenticated documents, and 17 witnesses to his mental clarity. Plus, we have evidence of your attempted elder abuse and fraud. Would you like to discuss this further with the district attorney?" Terrence sank back down, the shadows around him churning like a storm. "To my granddaughter Desiree Grayson Morris," Attorney Caldwell continued, "I leave the sum of $1 and this requirement. You must spend 6 months caring for the elderly at Sunset Manor Nursing Home, the one you wanted to put me in, as a volunteer every single day before you can receive any further inheritance." "I have a business to run," Desiree protested. "Then you have a choice to make," Attorney Caldwell replied. "To my grandson, Antoine Grayson, I leave the sum of $1 and this task. You must make amends to everyone you've wronged in your business dealings. The private investigator documented 43 instances of fraud at your dealerships. Make it right, with interest, and document it all, or receive nothing." Antoine looked like he'd been punched. Through the truth illumination, I could see him calculating. "That's over $2 million in restitution." The old man knew everything. "To my great-grandchildren," Attorney Caldwell read, "I leave trust funds of $200,000 each, to be managed by their grandmother Ruby Grayson until they reach 25, provided they maintain good character and pursue education or legitimate business ventures." "You're giving our children's money to her to control?" Keisha, Antoine's wife, spoke for the first time, having slipped in during the chaos. I'm giving it to the only person who's proven trustworthy, Attorney Caldwell corrected. And there's more. He pulled out property deeds. The 3 rental properties go to Ruby Grayson exclusively. The investment portfolio, currently valued at $3 million, goes to Ruby Grayson exclusively. The family home in Oak Grove, which has been in the Hawthorne family for 90 years, goes to Ruby Grayson exclusively. And, he added, pulling out one final document, this is a restraining order. If any of you come within 500 feet of Mrs. Grayson without her explicit invitation, you'll be arrested. Your conspiracy to commit elder abuse and fraud has been reported to the authorities. The district attorney is giving you one chance. Leave Mrs. Grayson alone or face prosecution. Mama? Please, Desiree started, reaching for me. The golden light flared, and she jerked back as if burned. But I wasn't trying to hurt her. The light had shown me something else. In her purse was a vial of the substance she'd been giving me, and a syringe. You brought it here? I asked, heartbroken. You were going to drug me again? Today? Jordan grabbed his mother's purse and dumped it out. Along with the vial and syringe, there were documents, commitment papers for a psychiatric facility, already filled out with today's date. The plan was to have me committed straight from the will reading, I said, understanding flooding through me. Make it look like the stress of Daddy's death had broken my mind. It was for your own good, Terrence insisted. You're old, Mama. You can't manage all this property and money. We were trying to protect you. The truth. Illumination blazed, and suddenly everyone in the room could see what I saw. The shadows around my children became visible to all, dark tentacles of greed and malice writhing around them like living things. Desiree screamed. Antoine fell to his knees. Terrence tried to run but crashed into the door. This is what Daddy saw, I said quietly. This is what you really are. Not my children anymore, but something twisted by greed and entitlement. Please, Grandma, a small voice said from the doorway. 8-year-old Imani, Antoine's daughter, stood there with Sister Dolores, who'd brought her. Are Mommy and Daddy monsters now? I knelt down, the golden light softening to a warm glow. No, baby, they're just lost. But maybe they can find their way back. I stood and faced my children one last time. You have your conditions. Meet them, and you'll receive your inheritance. Not just money, but maybe you'll find your souls again. Fail, and you get nothing but those $3 and the knowledge that you betrayed the woman who gave you life. What about you? Desiree asked, tears streaming down her face. Real ones this time. What happens to you? I live, I said simply. For the first time in years, I truly live. And I use this gift your grandfather left me. Not the money, but this power to see truth and bring justice, to help others. The golden light pulsed, and I saw flashes of the future, me helping other elderly people escape abusive situations, exposing fraud, healing hurts, bringing truth to light. The Hawthorne legacy wasn't just about our family, it was about serving the community. But first, I said, looking at Jordan, who stood tall despite his ordeal, I'm going to make sure the grandchildren who showed courage and character get everything they deserve. Jordan, you're moving in with me. We're getting you transferred to a school where your uncle doesn't have influence, and you're going to help me learn to use this gift. What about us? Jalen, Jordan's twin, appeared in the doorway. I knew what they were doing too, Grandma. I was just too scared to say anything. The truth. Illumination touched him, and I saw his regret was genuine. Then you come too. All the grandchildren who want to learn what real family means, you're welcome. Terrence stood up, his face ugly with rage. You can't just take our children. I'm not taking anyone, I said calmly. I'm offering them a choice, something you never gave me. The office fell silent as the weight of everything settled. My children looked broken, defeated, but maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of redemption. Rock bottom, Daddy used to say, is just solid ground to build on. Attorney Caldwell cleared his throat. There's one more thing. Mr. Hawthorne left a video message to be played only after the truth illumination manifested. He turned his computer screen toward us and pressed play. Daddy's face appeared, healthy and smiling from what must have been a year ago. Well, Ruby girl, if you're seeing this, then you've discovered what you really are. But I need to warn you, we ain't the only family with gifts. And some of those families, they don't use their power for good. There's a reason I kept this secret so long. Now that your light is shining, the darkness is going to notice. The video continued, but I couldn't hear it over the sound of shattering glass. Someone, or something, had just broken through Attorney Caldwell's third-floor window. And whoever it was, they were surrounded by shadows that made my children's darkness look like candlelight. The figure that crashed through Attorney Caldwell's window was wrapped in shadows so thick they seemed to swallow light. But when the person stood, brushing off glass shards like they were dust, I gasped. It was Vernon, the same Vernon from Desiree's text messages, the one who'd been helping poison me. But Vernon wasn't just some hired thug. As he straightened, shadows peeled away from his face, revealing features I recognized from old photographs in Daddy's study. "Hello, Cousin Ruby," Vernon Blackstone said, his voice like gravel over silk. "Congratulations on your awakening. Cornelius kept you hidden from us for so long, we thought the Hawthorne light had died out." "Who are us?" I asked, instinctively stepping in front of my grandchildren. "The Shadow Bearers," Vernon smiled, and his teeth seemed too sharp. "The other side of the coin, you might say. Where you Hawthorns bring truth to light, we Blackstones keep it buried. It's been a profitable arrangement for generations. Before we continue, please comment below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel to help us hit that big 1,000 subscriber milestone." "Your family?" Desiree asked, confusion clear in her voice. "You never said you were family." "You never asked," Vernon replied coldly. "You just wanted someone who could help you steal from your mother. Though I must admit, when I realized who you were trying to rob, it became personal. Do you have any idea how much money your grandfather cost my family over the years? Every time we'd set up a fraud, every elder we'd drain dry, Cornelius would somehow show up and ruin it." The golden light around me pulsed stronger. "That's what Daddy did with his retirement? He was fighting you?" "Him and that damned light of his," Vernon spat. "But he's gone now, and you're new to this power. You don't even know what you're capable of yet, whereas I've been perfecting my shadows for 40 years. The darkness around Vernon expanded, filling the room like living smoke. Attorney Caldwell pushed the grandchildren toward the door, but the shadows formed a wall, trapping us all inside. "Here's what's going to happen," Vernon said, pulling out legal documents from his coat. "You're going to sign over everything to me, the properties, the money, all of it. Then you're going to let that pretty light of yours die out, and we'll never have to see each other again." "And if I refuse?" Vernon's shadows tightened around Jordan's throat. My grandson gasped, clawing at the darkness. "Stop!" I shouted, and the golden light exploded from me in a wave. It hit Vernon's shadows, and for a moment they dissolved. Jordan dropped to the floor, coughing but alive. Vernon laughed. "Not bad for a first try. But Cornelius should have trained you properly. Light without focus is just a flashlight in the dark." He was right. I could feel the power inside me, vast and warm, but I didn't know how to direct it. It was like having a fire hose with no way to aim. "Grandma," Imani's small voice cut through my panic. "Remember what great-granddaddy always said? The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to shine." The truth. That was it. I closed my eyes and stopped trying to fight Vernon's darkness directly. Instead, I let the truth illumination do what it was meant to do. Reveal what was hidden. The golden light spread from me, not as a weapon, but as revelation. and suddenly, everyone could see everything. We saw Vernon's history, decades of elder abuse, stealing from nursing homes, draining the life savings of vulnerable seniors. But more than that, we saw his victims. Hundreds of ghostly figures appeared in the room, elderly black men and women whose final years had been destroyed by his greed. "No," Vernon stumbled backward. "You can't. They're not real." "Mrs. Washington," I said, recognizing one of the spirits. "From Sunset Manor. You died alone because Vernon stole your money and your family thought you'd abandoned them." "Mr. James," Jordan said, seeing them too, "you used to come to our church. You disappeared 5 years ago." One by one, we named them. And with each name, Vernon's shadows grew weaker, as if the truth itself was poison to his darkness. But then something unexpected happened. Terrence stepped forward, his eyes fixed on one particular spirit, an elderly man in a veteran's cap. "Mr. Coleman?" Terrence whispered. You were my first client. You trusted me with your pension, and You sent him to Vernon," I finished, the truth becoming clear. "That's how this started. You were already working with Vernon before you ever plotted against me." Terrence fell to his knees. "I didn't know he would. I just thought, Mr. Coleman, I'm so sorry." The spirit of Mr. Coleman looked at Terrence with such sadness that even Vernon's shadows couldn't hide from it. "I'm sorry too," Desiree sobbed, seeing her own victims, elderly clients from her salon who'd trusted her with their credit card information, only to have it passed to Vernon. "Mrs. Betty, Mrs. Clara, I'm so sorry." Antoine saw them too. Customers from his dealerships, seniors he'd overcharged and cheated, whose information he'd fed to Vernon's network. My children hadn't just been plotting against me. They'd been part of something much darker, much older. They'd been feeding the shadows without even knowing it. "That's why the darkness clung to you," I understood. "Every elder you betrayed, every trust you broke, it fed Vernon's power, and it poisoned your souls." Vernon tried to gather his shadows for one final attack, but something beautiful happened. Jordan stood up, and there was light around him, not golden like mine, but silver, pure and bright. "The gift skips generations," he said in wonder, "but it doesn't disappear." Jalen began glowing too, a warm bronze light. Then little Imani, surrounded by light like sunset. Even Zara, who'd just arrived with Sister Dolores and other church members, began to shine with soft pearl luminescence. "The grandchildren," I breathed. Daddy knew. "That's why he protected them in the will." "No," Vernon roared, his shadows writhing. "The Blackstone darkness has ruled this city's underworld for decades. You can't." "Yes, we can," I said, and for the first time since this began, I smiled. Because the truth isn't just my burden to bear anymore. Together, all of us with the light, me and my grandchildren, let our power shine. Not as an attack, but as simple, undeniable truth. The room filled with warmth, with revelation, with justice. Vernon's shadows didn't fight it. They couldn't. They simply dissolved, like lies in the face of facts. And Vernon himself, stripped of his power, was just a man. A criminal whose decades of crimes were now visible to everyone. Attorney Caldwell, who'd been recording everything, called the police. Within minutes, Vernon was in custody, and the FBI was already tracking down his network of elder abusers across 3 states. But the real miracle happened next. Terrence, still on his knees, looked up at me with tears streaming down his face. "Mama, I see it now. I see what I became. I see what I did. Can you ever forgive me?" The truth. Illumination showed me his heart, broken, genuinely repentant, ready to change. The shadows were gone, burned away by acknowledgement of his crimes. Forgiveness is earned, not given. I said gently. But redemption? That's always possible. Desiree crawled to me, grabbing my hands. The vitamins, Mama. The poison. How could I? How could I do that to you? Vernon's shadows influenced you, I said, seeing it clearly now. But you made the choices. You have to live with that. But you can also choose differently now. Antoine hadn't moved, staring at the spirits of his victims. I'll make it right, he whispered. Every last one. I'll make it right. The spirits began to fade, but not before Mr. Coleman touched Terrence's shoulder, a gesture of potential forgiveness that made my son weep harder. Pastor Williams arrived with more church members, and the room that had been a battlefield became something else, a place of testimony and truth. Sister Ruby, Pastor Williams said, his eyes wide at the lingering light around me and the children. Cornelius told me this day might come. The church has been preparing. Preparing for what? I asked. To support you in what comes next. Vernon Blackstone wasn't the only shadow bearer in the city. His arrest will create a vacuum. Other darkness will try to fill it. But now, he looked at my grandchildren, all still glowing with their own light. Now we have defenders. Over the next hours, as police took statements and FBI agents arrived, the truth of what we'd become settled in. The Hawthorne legacy wasn't just about one person holding light. It was about raising a generation of truth-bearers. Jordan, his eye fully healed, stood tall beside me. I want to learn everything, Grandma. How to use this gift to protect people. Me too, Jalen added. We saw what happens when good people do nothing. And we're never doing nothing again, Zara said firmly. Even little Imani understood in her own way. We're gonna be superheroes, right, Grandma? But the real kind? Who help people? That's exactly what we're going to be, baby, I said, hugging her close. My children were placed under house arrest pending investigation of their involvement with Vernon's network. But the judge, seeing their genuine remorse and their willingness to testify against Vernon, offered them a deal: complete the conditions of Cornelius's will, plus community service specifically helping elder abuse victims, and they could avoid prison. It would be a long road for them. But for the first time in years, I had hope they might find their way back to the people Earl and I had raised them to be. A month later, I stood in my father's study, now mine, teaching Jordan how to focus his silver light to reveal hidden documents. Vernon's network had hidden financial records all over the city, and we were finding them one by one, returning money to victims and their families. Desiree had started her volunteer work at Sunset Manor, and reports were that she cried every day but showed up anyway. Terrence had liquidated his Tesla and other assets to start paying back Mr. Coleman's family and others. Antoine had publicly admitted to his frauds, losing his dealerships but gaining something more valuable: his children's respect as they watched him choose honesty over profit. Grandma, Jordan said, his light revealing another hidden safe in what looked like a solid wall. There's something else here, something older. Inside the safe were journals, not Vernon's, but Daddy's. Decades of records about the shadow bearers and light bearers, a secret war between darkness and truth that had been going on for generations. My dearest Ruby, one entry read, if you're reading this, then you know the truth. Our family's burden and blessing. The shadow bearers have controlled this city's dark corners for 100 years, feeding on the vulnerable, especially our elderly. But wherever shadows grow, light rises to meet them. You are that light now. You and the children. Guard them, train them, and never let them forget. The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to shine. Sister Dolores knocked on the study door. Ruby, there's someone here to see you. Says she's from Atlanta. Heard about what you did to Vernon's network. The woman who entered was elderly, dignified, with natural silver hair and knowing eyes. Mrs. Grayson, she said. My name is Evelyn Lightbourne. I'm from the Southern Council of Light Bearers. We've been waiting for the hawthorn light to return for 40 years. There are others? I asked, though I shouldn't have been surprised. Hundreds, Evelyn smiled. All over the South. Families like yours who carry the gift, protecting our communities from those who would exploit them. Your father worked alone by choice, but you don't have to. We want to help train you and your grandchildren. I looked at Jordan, whose silver light pulsed with excitement. Through the window, I could see Jalen and Zara in the garden, practicing with their bronze and pearl lights, trying to make flowers bloom. We accept, I said. But we do this our way, no secret society nonsense. We work with the church, with the community, in the open as much as we can. Evelyn laughed. Cornelius said you'd say that. He also said you'd be the one to change everything. The old ways of hiding are ending, Ruby. Your light is too bright to keep secret. That evening, I hosted Sunday dinner for the first time since Daddy's funeral. My grandchildren were all there, even Terrence's daughter who'd driven in from college. The house felt alive again, filled with laughter and light, literal light, as the children were still learning to control their gifts. As we sat around the table, holding hands for grace, I felt Daddy's presence, not as a ghost or spirit, but as legacy, as the love and strength he'd poured into us now flowing into the next generation. Lord, I prayed, thank you for revealing our true power, not the power to hurt or control, but to heal and free. Thank you for Daddy's wisdom in protecting us until we were ready. Help my children find their way back to the light, and help us use these gifts to serve our community. Amen. Amen, everyone echoed. As we ate, fried chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese, and cornbread, because some traditions are sacred, Jordan asked, Grandma, do you regret how it all happened? Finding out about your kid's betrayal like that? I thought about it, watching my grandchildren laugh and talk, their lights flickering with their emotions. Pain is sometimes the price of truth, baby. But truth, even painful truth, sets us free. Your parents are learning that now, and maybe, just maybe, they'll come back to us whole. And if they don't? Jalen asked quietly. Then we love them anyway, from a distance that keeps us safe. But we never stop being light. That's what the Hawthorne legacy really is, not giving up on people, but not letting them dim our shine either. As the evening wore on and the grandchildren helped clean up, without being asked because character matters, I stepped onto the front porch. The old neighborhood looked the same, but I could see it differently now. Lights in some houses, shadows in others, and the constant dance between them. Tomorrow, Jordan and I would visit Sunset Manor, looking for other victims of Vernon's network. Jalen would help Attorney Caldwell sort through financial records. Zara was starting a blog about elder abuse, using her pearl light to verify true stories from false. Even little Imani was helping, visiting nursing homes with her sunset glow that seemed to ease pain and bring joy. My children had nearly destroyed me trying to steal what they thought was valuable. Instead, their betrayal had awakened something priceless, not just in me, but in their children. The very legacy they'd tried to steal had passed them by and blessed the next generation. The irony wasn't lost on me, but neither was the hope. Because in the end, Daddy was right. The truth illumination wasn't just about revealing lies or fighting shadows. It was about showing people what they could be if they chose light over darkness, love over greed, family over fortune. My father's will had indeed revealed my true power, and my family, the real family, the ones who chose love, were handling it just fine. A car pulled up, and Terrence got out. He was thinner, tired-looking, but the shadows were gone. He stopped at the gate, respecting the restraining order. "Mama?" he called softly. "I know I can't come closer. I just wanted to say..." "Zara told me what you're doing, how you're helping people. I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The truth. Illumination showed me his heart. Still healing, still struggling, but genuine. 6 more months, Terrence, I said. Finish what Daddy asked of you. Then we'll talk about rebuilding. He nodded, tears on his face. I love you, Mama. I forgot that for a while, but I never stopped. I know, baby, I said, my own tears falling. I know. As he drove away, the golden light around me pulsed with warmth. This was the real power, not the ability to fight darkness, but the ability to forgive it, to offer redemption even to those who'd wronged us most. The night was falling, but I wasn't afraid. Let the shadows come. We had light enough to meet them. And somewhere, I knew Daddy was smiling. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.